Welcome to day 20 in the book of Isaiah, and today we're reading chapter 28. Now we're back to a message about Samaria, remembering that Samaria was a part of Israel, the northern kingdoms, and remembering that Samaria, so if you think about it, New Testament wise, Philip went to Samaria, Jesus went and met a Samaritan woman at the well, but Samaritan Jews and Galilean Jews were and Hebraic Jews were like totally opposed to each other. It took the stoning of Stephen went to Samaria and began to preach there, and then that's when the gospel opened up there. So previously the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel were not aligned, and now we're going to hear a message about Samaria for that time. What sorrow awaits the proud city of Samaria, the glorious crown of the drunks of Israel? It sits at the head of a fertile valley, but its glorious beauty will fade like a flower. It is the pride of a people brought down by wine. For the Lord will send a mighty army against it, like a mighty hailstorm and a torrential rain. They will burst upon it like a surging flood and smash it to the ground. The proud city of Samaria, the glorious crown of the drunks of Israel, will be trampled beneath its enemies' feet. It sits at the head of a fertile valley. Did I just read the same thing twice? Yes, no, it's repeating itself. Fertile valley, but its glorious beauty will fade like a flower. Whoever sees it will snatch it up as an earthly fig is quickly picked and eaten. And then, at last, the Lord of heaven's armies will be Israel's glorious crown. He will be the pride and joy of the remnant of his people. So people who held themselves as the pride and joy of the nation, they're going to get deposed, and the true king will take his place. He will give a longing for justice to their judges. Oh my gosh, can you imagine if all our leaders, all our world leaders had a longing for justice? How amazing would that be? He will give great courage to their warriors who stand at the gates. Now, however, Israel is led by drunks who reel with wine and stagger with alcohol. The priests and prophets stagger with alcohol and lose themselves in wine. This is not good for rulers of nations. Rulers of anything, people, in fact. They reel when they see visions and stagger as they render decisions. Their tables are covered with vomit. Filth is everywhere. Who does the Lord think we are? They ask, and why does he speak to us like this? Are we little children, just recently weaned? The pride in that statement, yes, to the Lord, you are, just like a little child. Come on now. He tells us everything over and over, one line at a time, a little here and a little there. Are you right, guys? Bit of respect. So now God will have to speak to his people through foreign oppressors who speak a strange language. God has told his people, here is a place of rest, let the weary rest here, this is a place of quiet here, but they would not listen. So the Lord will spell out his message for them again, one line at a time. Why? Because they don't get it. A little here and a little there. He's using their own saying against them. So they will stumble and fall, they will be injured, trapped and captured. Therefore listen to this message from the Lord, you scoffing rulers in Jerusalem. You boast, we have struck a bargain to cheat death and have made a deal to dodge the grave. The coming destruction can never touch us, for we have built a strong refuge made of lies and deception. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I'm placing a foundation stone in Jerusalem, a firm and tested stone. It is a precious cornerstone that is safe to build on. Whoever believes need never be shaken. I will test you with the measuring line of justice and the plumb line of righteousness. Since your refuge is made of lies, a hailstorm will knock it down. Since it is made of deception, a flood will sweep it away. I will cancel the bargain you made to cheat death, and I will overturn your deal to dodge the grave. When the terrible enemy sweeps through, you will be trampled into the ground. Again and again that flood will come morning after morning, day and night, until you are carried away. This message will bring terror to your people. The bed you have made is too short to lie on. The blankets are too narrow to cover you. The Lord will come as he did against the Philistines at Mount Perazim and against the Amorites at Gibeon. He will do a strange thing. He will come to do an unusual deed. For the Lord of heaven's armies has plainly said that he is determined to crush the whole land. So scoff no more, or your punishment will be even greater. Listen to me, listen and pay close attention. Listen. Does a farmer always plow and never sow? Is he forever cultivating the soil and never planting? Does he not finally plant his seeds, black cumin, wheat, barley and emmer wheat, each in its proper way and each in its proper place? The farmer knows just what to do, for God has given him understanding. A heavy sledge is never used to thresh black cumin, rather it is beaten with a light stick. A threshing wheel is never rolled on cumin, instead it is beaten lightly with flail. Grain for bread is easily crushed, so he doesn't keep on pounding it. He threshes it under the wheels of a cart, but he doesn't pulverize it. The Lord of Heaven's armies is a wonderful teacher, and he gives the farmer great wisdom. Wow, there's a lot in this chapter, chapter 28. So essentially we see them calling themselves the crown, wise in their own eyes, but it was either literally or figuratively, like just, as it were, just staggering around like drunks, like they don't have a clue. And our wisdom compared to the Lord's wisdom is ridiculous like that. Like, why would we think we know better than the Lord? Whether it was actually like that they're vomiting everywhere and filth everywhere, or whether that is metaphorical, we don't know. But they're mocking God. They have no room for his wisdom. They don't care. But God says, all right, well, I'll give it to you one line at a time. You say, give it one line at a time. I'm going to continue to give it to you one line at a time. They thought that they could cheat death. They thought that they could dodge the grave, whether probably through making alliances with, for them it was Syria, for Israel, but through different nations, through their own scheming, rather than trusting in the Lord their God. And so God says, hey, you know what, there's going to be a stone. And this kind of passage from verse 16 to 17, but particularly verse 16, about a cornerstone. There's a cornerstone that can be built on, and it's sure, and it is solid, and it is just, and it is true that that's a foundation that we can build upon. And it's really cool because there's kind of these allusions, or Jesus is throwing allusions to this when he gives the parable of those who build their life on his sayings and his teachings. He said it's like building your house on a rock, sure, but if you don't build on his teachings, it's like building your house on sand and it gets swept away. And right here it says that those who don't just get swept away. He said, he points to where other nations have been judged, and he said, you're not beyond that. But then he kind of really goes at him being a wise farmer who knows how to treat people exactly where they're at, who knows how to, if they're this kind of grain, he'll treat them this way. If they're this kind of grain, he'll treat them this way. He will use whatever measure is required. So I guess my challenge to us today would be, let's be those who are so quick to respond to the discipline of God, because the Lord loves those whom he disciplines. Let's be so quick to respond to the discipline of the Lord that he only ever needs to use something light on us. He needs to use something because we're people and we're stupid sometimes. We're noobs, but let him just have the opportunity to have to just use something light, and then quickly we're turned in his direction. Because the truth is that if we're not, then because he loves us, he will give us circumstance sometimes, whatever it looks like, to get our attention. That's not to say that every circumstance is from him to get our attention, but he does allow every circumstance, and he does want to get our attention. He wants our wholehearted devotion, and he wants our complete dependence. So let's be those who give it to him quickly, so that we don't need to have the full measure of his discipline, because he loves us.